Hey, it's Chris. Best of July, my best, crowdfunding best, retail best. What are we talking about? A little bit of everything? Oh yeah. I played 31 games. 31 games, different games in the month of July. I played some big ones. I played some ones you've never heard of. I played some ones that need to be on your radar. I was going to do a top 3, but way too hard. So I'm going to give you top 5 and a few other random musings of some other big name games that you know, with a little bit of Liege opinion thrown in there. Why? What you need to know, and a little bit of everything else. Plus a little crowdfunding talk from July as well. Let's do this. There were 4 standouts that made 4 of the top 5 games of the month for me really, really easy. We're going to start with the honorable mentions though, and I talked about this a little bit previously with a few passing thoughts about Earth and Ark Nova. I played both of them last month and I said, okay, where is all the rage? Where is all the hype? What is all the excitement about? Or where is all the hate coming from in the first place if you're not a fan of those games? And so now I can see, right? Earth is a 4x4 grid tableau building engine style game with heavy drafting, heavy burn through cards, and a massive deck to rival Ark Nova's, right? And that's where some of the big criticisms come from. Each of these decks are just massive. And both a boon and a curse is that there's just tons of stuff in the asymmetry of all these cards that go in there in the first place, and you're never going to see them all, and how you mitigate that, and how you like the strategic nature, which is kind of thrown out the window when you don't know what you're getting in some of these tableaus that are going to be able to be available to you in the first place. One of the other things, though, that the similarity between both of them, the thing that makes me go, I don't know if I'm going to keep Earth or even Ark Nova in my collection at this point, is they both felt like they overstayed their welcome just a little bit more than they should have. Earth is shorter, Ark Nova is longer. Ark Nova, though, encapsulated me, and did not feel nearly as long, even though by the end I realized how long it actually was. Earth feels like it should be a 45 to minute hour game that lasts an hour and a half. And it sort of drags because as you build this 4x4 card grid tableau, by 2/3 or half the way through the game, you're activating like, 6 to 10 different powers every single time. And again, that's really cool, right? This is like the engine builder opposite problem. We always talk about engine builders that you just get your engine built and then the game ends. This is like almost the opposite, right? Like you build the engine and it just gets so built and so built and so built that it just keeps going. And I felt it in that way. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I really don't know what I'm going to do with either of these games. I looked at Marine Worlds for Ark Nova and I said, I don't really know if I want more. It's cool that you're adding that element of life and styling to the park in the first place. But yeah, I mean, what it really needs is Terraforming Mars Prelude expansion, not additional map pack, not an additional thing to make the deck bigger. So of the two, if you had asked me a month ago, of the two, Chris, which do you think is more likely to stay in your collection? Hands down, I would have said Earth. Oh my gosh, such a joke question. Now, 60-40 Ark Nova. Again, you can tell me how wrong I am in the comment section. Number 5, Rolling Heights. I bought this on AEG's sale over the summer. Whatever, summer sale they were having. It was almost 50% off. And this just goes to show, one, some of these crowdfundings, even with the exclusives, I got both of the mini expansions with it, right? I think I paid $40 shipped, a little over $40 shipped. It wasn't even that price not shipped on the crowdfunding campaign, folks. I thought it was gimmicky. Rolling the meeples, building the little towers. It works. It forking works. I like it. Am I ever going to use the modular little expansion stuff? Maybe not. I don't know why I'm fooling with the Frosthaven coin, but it occupies my hands while I'm talking. But it works, and I enjoyed myself quite thoroughly from that aspect of things. So, yeah, gimmicks sometimes can work. Wasn't expecting it to. Sort of an engine, tableau, meeple rolling, building, literally, game. So AEG, good job with that one. Good job with that one. Number 4, if I can actually count fingers. Number 4 is going to be, and this was the top 4, right? I said that this was tough, that these were standout. I could rearrange these top 4 in any order on any given day, and it wouldn't surprise me. Number 4, just because there's just so much of it in the first place, is going to be Race to the Raft from City of Kings. Frank West. This is going to be one of my new go-to cooperative games. I kid you not. In order to teach people and just to show them what can be done from a cooperative standpoint. I mean, I think I'm probably, 10 scenarios in of the 80. And my wife's like, after we played some of the end tutorials, she's like, oh, this game's really easy. I'm like, honey, that was the tutorial that we kind of struggled to go through. Not struggled, but we can add this and this and this in difficulty. We add this and this and this, and we add this. And she's like, oh, okay. And it's just a game that you can pick any of those scenarios, add a couple rules, take a couple rules away, depending on your difficulty, depending on your player count, depending on who you're playing with. I played with my 9-year-old and my 11-year-old nephew, and, one of the easier ones, but still a challenge. Now you play with your gamer group, boom, bump it up a couple notches, there you go. Great, fantastic game. This is a forever game. This is easily a top 10 game of the year for me. No questions asked at this point. Probably all of these games are. Number three, this one, again, my review will be coming out either shortly before or shortly after this video. Binho. It is a turf soccer field dexterity game. You have little pegs that screw into the board that act as your players, and you're flicking a marble back and forth into a soccer goal. It's fun. Oh my gosh. It's so much fun. The instant recognizable nature that this game has over the other dexterity games like Tumbling Dice or Clasp or Crokinole cannot be understated. You get this out and just everyone goes, ooh, what's that? And it's expensive. It's $110. Bought it on their website. My kids love this game. Even my one who's not big into soccer. This is easily our most played dexterity game ever now. And we love Clasp. We love Crokinole. Tumbling Dice, it has been a complete, I'll say, failure as much as I like the idea of it. But this has easily skyrocketed up. And it's never going to go anywhere. Brought it on my vacation. Fantastic. Family loved it. Great fit. Cannot say enough good things about it from that standpoint. Number 2. We're actually going to make this number 2. Again, I can flop these either way. Gosu X. I have played a lot of 2-player, asymmetric, skirmish-style, faction-based games. This is taking a couple different factions, mashing 2 of them together. The ones you don't use affect the gameplay and the rules, and you go until somebody wins back and forth with this tiered leveling system where you have to have enough below it in order to play the next level, and how you play them, you have to discard if you don't have the matching color. It's just fantastic. The abilities are heavily take that. It's all card driven. It's just an absolutely fantastic game system. Again, easily a top 10 game of the year for me at this point. I have no qualms about saying that halfway through the year. Just over. And if you have any interest in that style of games whatsoever, it has a different feel, a different vibe than, say, your Yomi's Battlecons Exceeds, etc. But that's also why it's so great, is because there is an overlap slightly with those, but it's also completely different in the aspect of I can keep that in my collection, keep the others in my collection, have no qualms that they're taking up the same slot, because they're not at all whatsoever. It's easier because you don't have to pre-draft, you don't have to meta as much, because you're mashing the 2 factions together and seeing what they do. But there definitely can be that element as well. Just so impactful, so dynamic, so combo-rific, that I love it at this point. What's my number 1 game of the month? Well, I did the review of it. If you watched it, if you missed it, it's a game that's really hard to get right now because the 8th edition is out of print, and the 9th edition, Steven Jackson did something crazy weird with the graphics and not sure about the rules, and there's not a whole lot of information out there, but that's Wizwar. I am in love with this game, Wizwar 8th edition. I have one of the expansions. I'm trying to get the other one that's out of print, but there's just not available anywhere online. Spell slinging craziness. Asymmetric cards of just pure chaos. Light, fast, take that, boom, boom, boom. Winner gets 2 points, and the game's over. The ability to blow up walls, shoot around corners, take that, counterspell, pick up the treasure and deliver, essentially. Battle Royale at the same time with 4 players works just as well, or even, I will say, dare say, better than 2. Everything I'm looking for in a spell singing game, and I can't believe it took me this long to get it. So that's why it's easily number 1. Other games of note, Adventurelands, the reskin-ish game that's kind of got all the comparisons from Dune Imperium with a slightly different 16-bit RPG style of things. I'm actually really impressed by that one. Koale, the abstract game with little rocks on a board. Board's absolutely worthless, but the game itself is really nice because it's like Tak, only if Tak was limited to 8 turns. Quest for El Dorado, the new edition, love it. One of the best, easiest to introduce competitive games now, especially with the deck building aspect. Just waiting for Ravensburger to import some of the expansions that they haven't done yet. And I don't know why they wouldn't, because they should. It's just money waiting to be printed, essentially. So those are my top games played this month. What we got going crowdfunding? Well, I'll say, crowdfunding-wise, I have to give kudos where kudos is due. Planet Unknown over on GameFound with the expansion is easily one of the top 3 campaigns from July. Easily. I like the fact that they offered the previous stuff. I like the fact that they offered some new stuff that you could get mix and matched however you want. At the same time, I didn't really feel any desire to get the expansion because I didn't really want the game to be any longer. Just don't. Don't see any reason to make that game any longer than it is. It's already one of the longer-esque polyomino games in the first place. So I didn't back it. I may go in late and just get the stuff that was gameplay exclusive from the first crowdfunding campaign because I have a retail edition. But even then, I was kind of 50-50 because it's a little bit longer. It's a little bit harder to get to play with that lighter polyomino side of things. So all in all, impressed though. Impressed. The other one, secondly up here, is Stonespire Architects. I give Thunderworks a lot of credit. I looked at this and I said, I don't know. Looks like a really solid game. Looks like a really solid game as a tableau dungeon building style of things. What I wanted Boss Monster to be in the first place. And it gives the Thunderworks spin on things. And it looks like it's going to have more variability, which is my big problem with Role Player and the Role Player series, right? It went from very similar each game with the base game to just being a little bit too much going on with each of the expansions going on top of it. And so I think this is a nice middling. You get the little expansion that goes along with it. You know, mix or match. Your mileage may vary. If it's going to be cheaper at retail or cheaper on the crowdfunding, you know, Thunderworks puts that very close razor margin of making you guess one way or the other, but either way it's going to be $3 or $5. So I don't think you're losing out one way or the other from that side of things. And last up, you know, let's talk about it. Mordred. I have this one on my radar. I wasn't impressed. I did not like the dearth or the lack of information that Simon put out, even more so than usual. With the expansion stuff, with the actual flow of things, I thought the rulebook was not great in terms of exploring that. The one Dice Tower gameplay was lackluster for me in terms of helping me figure out whether or not to do it. So ultimately I passed on it. But this is probably one of the few that I'm looking at actually late backing as well, depending on, or really picking it up in the secondary market. But we have to talk about the campaign because I also fear that now that it didn't raise more than like $600,000, that Simon is going to look at this and go, I don't know if I'm going to try anything new again. We're going to go back to all the Uniteds and the zombie sides and maybe another Cthulhu and we're going to call it quits on the new stuff. And that scares me because I think there's some good games buried in there. This reminds me very similarly of Dogs of War and Blood Rage, that it could be a game more like that rather than like a Rising Sun or an Ankh, which I think are a little bit too overly complicated and a little bit, you know, too long for me personally. I think this has more of the other two Blood Rage, Dogs of War vibe for me. So that's the other campaign. Wizards & Co. from Sinister Fish Games. Tableau, take that. Octagonally based, laying monsters down. Last one standing gets the loot style of game. I'm backing it right now on crowdfunding. And so, I mean, it's just light and easy to get to the table, and I'll take that style and the lines of, you know, a Wiz War-esque in a different way. I like it. I like it a lot. So that's July. Again, I played 31 games, so this is really tough. A bunch of other games that I didn't even have a chance to talk about that didn't make the list. Bad Company, not sure where that's going to go. My wife didn't like it as much as Space Base. I liked it. Actually, I had a better strategy. I beat her. That's why she didn't like it. Clank Catacombs, played that. Probably going to be a keeper. Probably going to do a review at some point as well. Couple new ones coming out as well from Hatchet Games, In the Footsteps of Darwin, Legends of Void, the crowdfunding game from GameFound from a year ago as well. Very heavy version, heavier sci-fi fantasy version of Terraforming Mars, as well as I played some Jagged Earth, played Tribes of the Wind, as well as a Japanese game called Raigo, which was overly convoluted and just not as good as I was hoping, and it's a little disappointing, to be frank with you. And I wasn't even sure I was playing it right. And I'm gonna try it again, but there's like no information on Board Game Geek, and I was the only one that played it in the month of July in the whole world. So, or at least that logged it. So, it doesn't encourage me in terms of trying to figure it out further, which is unfortunate because, you know, as I've talked about previously, I'm a sucker for some of these Japanese games in the first place. So, if it really turns out to be not as good as I was hoping, or turns out to be how I'm thinking of it now, it's a big loss of money for me. Like $60 probably shipped, but you know, still had expectations and they weren't met. That's all I got. How was your month of July? Let me know what you thought. Soon we're going to be talking about looking back on crowdfunding from August. It's going to be a good time. There were a lot of stuff in the last 2 years in August. This year, not as much. September though, watch out for September. September 2023, it's going to be a big month. You heard it here first. Thanks for watching. Stay classy. Go to the Patreon, folks. Bump me $1. I got nothing else. I got to solicit somehow, folks. If anything, though, let's get to 10K before the end of the year. I'll give away some games if we can. Huh? Tell your friends. Tell your friends. And as always, go to the crowdfunding pages. Tell them Liege sent you. I'm done. I'm patronizing you now. Peace out.